KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger, a public affairs program featuring stories from all over the Central Valley with Sevag Tetiosian, 90.7 KFSR.
I'm your host, Sevag Tetiosian. Welcome to the Central Valley Ledger. We're recording out of the beautiful downtown Fresno studios of the Community Media Access Collaborative, Fresno Clovis. Not too far from us, there's some construction going on a beautiful street that's going to be opening up soon. And our guest this week is going to talk to us a little bit about that.
Hey.
Craig Scharton, welcome to the program.
Glad to be back.
You know, I'm glad you're back. You're like the resident expert on downtown Fresno for us. You come and talk about downtown all the time.
Well, I'm just getting old, that's why.
By the way, we were just talking off air. I think the first time you and I talked on air was like in 2006 or something, or 2007, back in the studios of KFSR.
I think you had like a wooden microphone.
Now you're going a little too far back, but the stand was wooden. Okay, yeah. I'll give you that much.
Okay.
Craig, welcome back.
Good to be here.
There's some
Always.
exciting stuff happening not too far from us. There are some fences that might go down. What am I talking about, Craig?
Fulton Street, the return of Fulton Street. So we're getting close.
It's no longer Fulton Mall, I understand.
Right. We actually sent out in June the official letter through the post office that everyone needs to change their address, and they have a year in case they have this weird thing called stationery or business cards or whatever, non-digital media with their address on it.
The stuff you used to hand out, right?
I know. So everyone's changing their address to Fulton Street.
So the mall, you know, I'm in one of the buildings in the mall on the 6th floor, and I get to see firsthand the transformation. And so the jackhammers and stuff were working, and now there's trees going up. So we must be close to the opening. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the official event will be October 21st. So everyone needs to mark their calendar. It's a huge day in our city's history. The official ceremony will be at 3 o'clock, and then at 4 o'clock the party begins. And then we're going to have a cruise night with old cars and exotic cars. And then after that, we're going to pull up the barricades and everyone can come back down and drive Fulton Street that first night. That's pretty memorable. I wouldn't want to miss that. And we'll have multiple beer gardens, multiple stages. We're going to have 18 pop-up businesses. It's just going to be a blast.
Sounds like a big party.
I like big parties.
Yeah, but you know, it's all fun when it opens and we have a great time, but not too long ago, there was resistance, and it was not as fun as it is now, right? I mean, it took a while to get here.
Oh, it took a long time. And you know, for people who actually do something, whether it's create a business or build a building or do even an event for a nonprofit, when you do stuff, you realize how hard it is to get anything done. And I can tell you this project could have died 1,000 different times. And so it's amazing sometimes when I get a minute and I think about all of the obstacles we've overcome to get here. It's remarkable that it's even happening. It sometimes doesn't feel real.
You know, a few months ago, we had former Mayor Ashley Schwaringen on the show. By the way, she's still full of energy.
She's superhuman. I mean,
I bring her up because how important was she in this whole renovation of the Fulton Mall?
Well, I like to say I have a but-for list, right? And there are many people on that list for this project that but for them it would not have happened. And there's no one person that can claim the credit, but certainly if it wasn't for Ashley's leadership and ability to network, there's no way it would have happened. I mean, when she was a candidate, she called me and said, downtown's important, what's the plan? And then back it up. You can never just throw out an idea with her. So you have to have all the research. I said, here's what 175 other cities have done. She goes, that's all I need. And then you just stay out of her way.
It sounds like her.
Yep.
You know, that type of, you know, go get her type of person.
Yep. So, you know, making contacts that end up, you know, becoming, she's on a first name basis with the Secretary of Transportation and We get the Strong Cities, Strong Communities White House initiative. You know, she's Republican, but she knew how to work with a Democratic president and a Democratic governor, Governor Brown. So, you know, she, by building out that network of people and telling them about the great things happening in Fresno, then when we're ready to apply for a grant or we need help getting through the process or whatever, she'd already built up that network of supporters. Fresno fans. She does that everywhere she goes.
So when the mall opens up, I imagine that properties on the mall have been going up for years, ever since a lot of different things have been into play. But there are some government buildings on the mall.
Right.
When that mall opens up, you better believe that that's going to be even more valuable land. So is there like a push or a movement or something for the government buildings to move or stay? Or what say you, Craig?
Yeah, what we don't like is we don't like the government offices or even a lot of private sector offices on the ground floor of your main street. You know, they're fine on the second floor or maybe one block off or something, but you don't want to have spaces that are closed at 5 or closed on the weekends, because that's when healthy downtowns are the busiest. And, you know, I think the natural progression is at some point, you know, the county board or the city council or whoever says, you know, we could sell that building and buy another building, you know, 2 blocks away.
Bigger or nicer.
You're right, and save a lot of money or make a lot of money off of it. And then we get private sector in, and you get people, you know, who are working till, you know, bitwise, you can walk in there and you've got tech companies working, you know, around the clock, and, you know, you want to get that kind of activity going, or if someone comes in and turns it into really cool housing or something like that.
Speaking of housing, Fresno Bee did a story about housing in the big Security Bank building, Pacific Southwest building, and the manager of that building said there's a waiting list.
Right.
So people are living on the Fulton Mall.
They are, and you know, there's a waiting list and there's nothing else like it. You know, we're in a region of 1.7 million people and they only have 12 units. It's supply and demand. So out of 1.7 million people, you're going to get some people that would prefer that lifestyle with the view and loft living and not have to push a lawnmower and be close to where the action is or walk to work. And so that's why you start seeing in downtowns all over the country, really all over the world, well, not all over the world, in a lot of places, that incredible demand for that urban lifestyle makes it more expensive. But people are willing to pay it because they want to live that lifestyle.
And the view from up there. You and I have gathered, and by the way, I'm going to give him a plug here. Savak Khachadurian, wonderful person, very nice man.
Yes.
You and I have been up in the loft and we've seen the view. How nice is it up there?
Oh, it's gorgeous. I mean,
Beautiful.
I mean, people even from other big cities, when they get up there and they see how far you can see the lights of the city in every direction, you know, it's really remarkable. So I lived up there in the 90s for 2 years on the 15th floor. So
I didn't know that. So
every
you lived
night
up there.
my son and I would walk out and watch the sunset. It's a very special place, and it's an incredible building. It's really one of the best.
So there's other vacant buildings on the mall. Do you anticipate that stuff is going to happen with those buildings? I'm thinking about the one by the Patterson building. I'm thinking about the Bank of Italy building.
Yeah, we've got several of the major buildings are getting closer to pulling building permits and getting going. So over the next year, I would expect that we'll see big changes. But really, you know, what my focus is now is rebuilding the economy from the ground up. So when you go to a big city, you might look up and think about the big buildings, New York, San Francisco, oh, look at all the skyscrapers. But what you do is on the ground floor, right? And even like the delis in New York or the pizza places or whatever, they're in smaller buildings between the big skyscrapers. So even though we look up and think about that, what we actually do is at the sidewalk level.
We're eating on the ground level.
Yeah, you're sitting out having a glass of wine and some pasta with your friends and laughing and sitting on the sidewalk. So my real goal is to activate that ground floor retail on Fulton we're working with the existing businesses to get their outdoor dining, to get ABC licenses if they want, or if they have them, to extend them so that people can sit outside. That gives them additional revenue. It also gives them additional incentive to stay open at night. And it creates that feel now when you walk down the block and there are 3 or 4 outdoor dining restaurants or bars or coffee houses or bistros per block. Now you walk down and you see people, and then it's a completely different feel than people have experienced for the last 40 or 50 years.
By the way, I hear that the old Payless shoe building, the store, is being turned into restaurants or cafes. Right. Is there any truth to this rumor?
That is true. The building permits are already at City Hall.
Nice.
So that's a great change. That's what we want to see. We're calling it the Fulton Entertainment District. So that's what you want, is you want dining, you want music, you want art, you want fun, you want vitality in your downtown. And that's what you do when you visit other cities, and that's what we're putting together here. And the internet can't steal that away because people will always want to gather.
Let me ask you, you and I have talked about this for years, and every year we say we're getting closer, we're getting closer. You and I have felt that something is changing. We're almost there to say, see, we told you, right?
Right. And it has been changing, and it's kind of chugging uphill a little bit, but certainly the negative comments we used to get and the fights about whether we should do it, those seem to be dissolving away, and people seem to be more positive and hopeful. And I know that because I look at all the comments online, and it used to be 90% negative, and now it's probably 90% positive. But I'll tell you, this is the secret. None of it really starts until October 21st. Like, all of this has been groundwork, and on October 21st, everything changes. And the community is not going to see that, but I'm telling you, that's what's coming. It is. Every downtown that we looked at, once that street gets open and life can begin to flow and commerce and energy, there's a very short distance between we'll have 0 vacancies. It'll become a normal thing. You won't feel like you need a hero badge to go downtown. Like, I gave blood and I supported a downtown business because that's what you're supposed to do. You're going to be down there because you want to be down there.
So what is Craig Scharton going to be thinking on October 21st at about 8 p.m. when he sees a beautiful old car drive down Fulton? And I'm asking you that question because...
Don't do this to me on air.
Because you and your team have been working this thing for years. I know, because we've talked about it for years.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about that yet, but I can tell you how I felt at the groundbreaking. Ooh. I was emceeing that ceremony for the groundbreaking, and I looked out and I saw my dad and my son and his family and my little, I only had one grandson at the time, was in my son's arms, and thinking about, this is who we're doing it for. It's not for us. I mean, we'll get to enjoy it, but you really are trying to build something for the future. And when you see that connection, that's what makes this incredibly special.
So, talk a little bit about what businesses you want to bring to the Fulton Mall. There are some restaurants, and with the street being closed, some of the restaurants have struggled. So, what advice? Actually, I'll change the question and ask, what advice would you give a restaurant owner right now who is saying, you know what, it's a challenge. Should we keep pushing this thing forward?
Yeah, we have a couple of them that have gone out just recently. I'm like, you made it through, a virtually dead downtown, and then through construction, and we're almost to the finish line, and then
now is
you miss
time.
out.
Yeah.
Oh, it just breaks my heart. So October 21st, everything changes. It's like the difference between BC and AD for downtown. It becomes not a daytime lunch downtown, it becomes an evening fun downtown. And so if you're a restaurant owner and you're used to just cranking out 40 lunches every day and closing at 3 or whatever. That's over, right? Lunch is now, do it if you want. I mean, that's great. But lunch is secondary. You're now a nighttime business. And so what are you doing to attract that 1.7 million people down here, right? Why does someone want to drive from Hanford and say, God, I heard about this place, this guy named Savag has this restaurant down there and they are doing the craziest stuff. I got to get in the truck and I got to go check this thing out because he is insane, right? And if you're not operating at that level, then why get in the truck and drive to Fresno, right? So we need every business like thinking about how to be more fun, how to fix up their interior, how to pump up their social media game, events. When we have events, how are they going to plug in so they can make more money off of Cinco de Mayo or a Thursday night farmer's market or whatever we end up doing down the road? Like, you've got to be engaged now. It is no longer, I'll open my doors, but if I get the sniffles, I'll close, or I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to go in. You got to clean the flies out of the windows. You got to up your game. And if you do that, the chance for making vastly more revenue is right there. And
along those lines, there have been people who have said, well, when the street opens up, rents are going to skyrocket anyway. Is there truth to that? I mean, it could happen.
Right. It could happen. And let me tell you, there's a danger of rents being too high, and there's a danger of rents being too low. And as big-hearted people, we worry about the high one, but we don't think about the low one. You can't get a revitalized JCPenney building or Bank of Italy building or Helm building with rents too low. So if you have a bank and I have a building and I say, I want you to loan me money to fix up this building, you're going to ask for my rent roll.
Mm-hmm. And if it's too low, I'm going to say, sorry, but it doesn't pencil out.
Right. How are you going to pay back the loan? So you have to get rents up to a certain point, if you love those buildings, that you can actually get the loan or get the investor who's going to make the money so you can do the $18 million renovation. Mm-hmm. And at 50 cents a square foot, where rents were when we started this in 2008, 2009, those buildings are all going to fall apart. So we've got to get them up. Now, if they raise them too high and there isn't enough business to support it, they're going to go out of business, and then rents are going to come back down. So the commercial rents are an actual reflection on how much commerce is happening. Mm-hmm. And you can't get too far ahead. You can't say, I'm going to charge $10 a foot because now downtown's great, and then tenant after tenant goes out of business. Eventually you're going to have to go, well, my neighbor's charging $2, so maybe I better charge $1.90, or, it stabilizes itself.
Grizzly Stadium.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of it.
Yeah. Nice, beautiful building.
Yep.
Where do you see Grizzly Stadium fit in this? Because there's the entrance off of the mall to Grizzly Stadium.
So, Grizzly Stadium was the right idea. It was the right location. The mistake was they put the ticket windows and the season ticket parking on H Street. So you could park, get your tickets, go in,
and
watch
not have
a game,
to go,
leave, and go home. So it might as well have been out in the field, right? That changes when Fulton becomes a lively place, because now you'll want to park in the spiral garage or the underground garage and come up and walk and meet your friends at a place and sit outside and have a drink and eat some food before you go into the game, and then you go into the game, and then you walk back out and you're like, hey, a new place opened here, and you stop in there for a little bit. And that's what you do in successful cities. So that foot traffic that should have been added to Fulton was lost just by putting the entrance and the tickets on the wrong side. So we're working with the city and with the Grizzlies right now, very, very early. I probably shouldn't even be talking about this, but it's you, so give you a little scoop.
It's just me. No one else. No one else is watching or listening to this.
So, we during the high-speed rail construction, we want to see if we can move some of those ticket windows and maybe some of the parking to the other side of the mall, so we start generating that foot traffic through the outdoor location. And that will change not only the Grizzlies experience, but also the foot traffic for the new entertainment dining businesses.
Looking 10 years out, I see a completely different area.
Yep.
Not only will the mall have been open, but I hear some developments around Grizzly Stadium. Am I hearing correctly?
Yeah, there's Terrence Frazier has some really great development plans. He's, a fantastic local developer. Bought some of the land on 8th Street. Terrence and Mehmet have the South Stadium development at the end of the mall. Downtown Fresno Partnership has been working with existing and incoming craft breweries, so developing an ale trail to support that whole emerging sector of the community. We'll be developing some businesses that are really designed to bring in foot traffic to support the businesses that we're getting into downtown. So it's good. In 5 years, you won't recognize it. It won't even take 10.
We'll probably be recording in 5 years. I'm going to invite you back.
Hold me to it.
We'll show pictures of how different it's going to be.
That's right.
And then add high-speed rail to this, which is this kind of other
wild
big
card.
thing, wild card.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know if they've made a decision on where the station is going to be.
The station's going to be right at Mariposa and 8th Street. So that was something that the mayor and I, when we got to City Hall, realized that the station was going to be way over past Grizzly Stadium. Kind of the same issue, you can put the traffic in the wrong place. And so we worked together to move it to Mariposa. And so that's where the original train station is. That's why downtown is where it is, because the train station was there, people got off, commerce happened. So now the new station is next to the old station. People get off the train, they walk right into the heart of downtown, commerce happens.
Can you imagine the mall being opened, the development around Grizzly Stadium, people coming to watch a game at Grizzly Stadium, then the high-speed rail facility dropping off people? I mean, it could completely be a different image than it is now.
It's all very doable, right? It's all on track to happen. So, but it's as humans, we're not that good at looking into the future. We talk about when people sell a vacant house, they have to rent fake furniture to put in so people can imagine what a bedroom looks like with a bed in it, right?
Yeah.
So we can only see so far. So, that's why we're putting in the pop-up businesses for the grand opening, so people can see the downtown that we're working toward creating. So, I can't even imagine what it will look like with a high-speed rail station and people coming in from all over the state or the world and popping into the middle of our downtown. And I hope we get to live to see it.
Because there's a lot of exciting stuff happening. There's some elections coming up. City Council, the representative will be representing downtown.
Right.
A new representative. How important, do we still need our elected officials? I mean, how important is partnership with them?
Well, it's important, but it becomes less important, I think, over time. The big vote, I would say, was, getting Fulton Street reopened. And after that, they become a supportive role. People still call and say, I want to move my business downtown. How much money are they going to give me? And we're past that. Now we have people moving downtown because they want to be downtown. And ultimately, you've got to get past the subsidy and past all the other stuff, and it has to take hold on its own. But it doesn't mean that there will ever be a day when we wouldn't want to have a strong partnership with our city. They still have the infrastructure, they still have the police force, they still have, the ability to approve events and take care of the landscape and graffiti and all that stuff. So it should be a strong, healthy partnership between the city and the private sector. But now the most important part is with the community. And once that comes along, then I don't think anyone will want to mess it up.
We're running out of time this week on the program. What's next? What's the next area in downtown? So Fulton Mall is going to be open in October. there's got to be a next area. Is it Chinatown or is it somewhere else?
Yeah, I think Chinatown's a great one. So we've tried something in Fresno that I've never seen anywhere else, and that is where you have the core of your downtown, the core of your city, and you try to revitalize everything around it, and then like sneak up on it in the middle of the night, and then you're going to revitalize the core. I've never seen that. You always revitalize the core first, and then you start getting these districts popping up around it. So once Fulton takes off, then you're going to start to see, like, you know, the hip young people will go, oh, there's a bunch of old guys like Craig and Savag hanging there. It's not cool anymore, so now we're going to go to the next hip place, and Chinatown is edgy and whatever, and then that'll
It sounds like sexy, you know, Chinatown.
And then it'll be, you know, South Van Ness will be the cool place. But that means that our downtown and the surrounding districts are all starting to become healthy. So
in the next 20 years now, we're going to see a lot of exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm just, it's, to me, I'm looking at October 21st.
Yeah. And that's the game changer.
I got to throw that big party. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed in me. So we got to throw that. We got to do it right. And then we'll wake up the next day and think about the next stuff. But right now, we've got, like I said, 18 pop-ups happening, beer gardens, bands, cars. If anyone knows people with old cars, they're going to want to come to downtownfresno.org. And in about a week, we'll have the registration up, because there'll only be 250 cars. If you're not one of those, you're not going to be one of the first ones to drive on Fulton Street. So,
and you're looking for old exotic cars?
We're going to start with pre-1964 cars, because the mall closed the cruise, the Dragging the Main in 1964. So we're going to do a little homage to the pre-64s, and then we'll fold all the others in, and then we're going to do Lamborghinis and Ferraris and all that cool stuff, and then we'll open it, and then you and I will be driving on it, and the next day people will drive down, and it'll be a normal Main Street again.
Craig, we're out of time this week on the program. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you again for enlightening us about downtown. You're the resident expert about downtown Fresno.
Well, thanks for having me, and I will always say yes.
And the next time we talk, guess what? Ooh. We might be recording live out of the newly opened Fulton Mall.
Well, I hear CMAC is going to be live that day there, so we might want to do a segment.
Yes. Craig, thank you so much.
Anytime.
That's all for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger. We hope you enjoyed this program with Craig Scharton talking about the Fulton Mall opening, Fulton Street, as it's called now. Thank you to the volunteer crew that made this production and every production possible. We couldn't do this program without you in the studio. Moises is making us look and sound good. Thank you to those listening to this broadcast on 90.7 FM KFSR Fresno, and to those watching on the CMAC channel, Comcast 93 and AT&T 99. We couldn't do this program without you listening and watching to us. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week with a new edition.
KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger every Sunday morning at 11:30. For a complete program schedule, visit kfsr.org.